Have you ever noticed that your mind never seems to stop? Even when you're sitting quietly, trying to relax, your thoughts continue. You think about yesterday's mistakes, tomorrow's problems, unfinished tasks, relationships, money, success, and countless imaginary situations that may never happen. Modern psychology calls this overthinking. Ancient Indian wisdom called it something else, the restless mind. Thousands of years ago, Indian sages observed something remarkable. They discovered that human suffering is often not caused by reality itself, but by our constant mental activity about reality. Think about it. Most of the time, we are not living in the present moment. We are living inside our thoughts about the present moment. A simple conversation becomes hours of analysis. A small mistake becomes a mental replay. An uncertain future becomes anxiety. The mind continuously creates stories, predictions, fears, and expectations. Ancient Indian texts describe the mind as a powerful servant, but a dangerous master. When the mind serves awareness, it becomes a tool for creativity, intelligence, and growth. But when awareness becomes trapped inside the mind, we experience stress, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Modern neuroscience is beginning to discover something similar. Research shows that the brain has what scientists call a default mode network. This network becomes active when we are not focused on a specific task. It often generates self-referential thinking, daydreaming, worrying, and mental chatter. In other words, the brain naturally produces thoughts. The problem is not that thoughts exist. The problem is that most of us believe every thought we think. Ancient wisdom teaches a simple but profound insight: you are not your thoughts. Just because a thought appears in your mind does not mean it is true. You can observe a thought without becoming trapped inside it. Imagine sitting beside a river. Thoughts are like the water flowing past. Most people jump into the river and get carried away. Awareness sits on the riverbank and watches. This shift changes everything. The goal is not to stop thinking completely. Even great sages, philosophers, and scientists had thoughts. The goal is to develop a relationship with thinking rather than becoming controlled by it. Meditation was developed for this very purpose. Not to escape life, not to become emotionless, but to create a small space between awareness and thought. In that space, clarity appears. When you begin observing your thoughts rather than automatically following them, something surprising happens. The mind starts to slow down, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding every thought with your attention. Ancient Indian wisdom reminds us that peace is not something we create. Peace is what remains when unnecessary mental noise begins to settle. The mind may continue producing thoughts, but you no longer have to follow every one of them. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom of all. Not controlling the mind, but discovering that you are something deeper than the mind itself.